right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Wednesday afternoon here in sunny Vancouver. Maybe it's Thursday where you are or some other day in the future. If it's really far in the future, say hello to our robot masters out there. Thanks for joining. I am Shaun. I'm your teacher for the next hour, as usual. And, of course, we've got Lane, the moderator, who you've probably met in the chat. And if you guys have questions throughout the class, you can toss them in the chat, and we'll try to answer them as best we can, as often as we can, okay? So, welcome. If it's your first time, I think I saw a couple names in there, at least one, I think Miguel, I think I saw from Chile, first time. Welcome. And a couple people that have been here since the beginning, of course. Yeah, good to see you guys too. Selma and Aaron and a whole bunch of people. Rosa, good. Okay, so Paul too is there. Good to see you. So let's get started. All right, what are we talking about today? Let me show you. Okay, well, yeah, we're not talking about dogs. We're going to start with the verb to frighten. All right, we're going to talk about fear for a couple minutes here. Usually we talk about happy thoughts, happy things. But for now, to start, to kind of introduce the topic today, we'll talk about the verb to frighten, to be scared of something. All right, Marianne's there too. Nice to see you. Okay, so the question for the chat is, what frightens you? Okay, what are you afraid of? This looks like a terrifying school. That this would frighten me, I think. So what are some things that you're afraid of? What scares you is the question, okay? It could be anything. Lots of people are frightened of spiders. Spiders are pretty frightening, I guess. People are frightened of speaking in public. For example, doing some kind of speech is pretty terrifying at times. My personal fear, no, it's not terrifying. I'm not terrified of this, but sometimes I get a little bit frightened of the ocean, open water, all right, dark. Sometimes I get it's a little frightening not knowing what's in there, right? If you can't see, what's underneath the water. Again, it's not terrifying. I still go into the ocean, right, for a swim, but I'm a little frightened at times because I know that I'm not supposed to be in there, right? It's not a natural place for me to be. So if something goes wrong, it definitely goes wrong, right? So it's a little frightening. All right. So what do we have? Fears. Oh, Paul's afraid of the ocean as well. He finds the ocean a little frightening. Snakes for Rosa. Snakes in the ocean would be terrifying. What else? Anything else in there? Selma's afraid of dying alone. Yes, me too. I don't know why I'm laughing at that, but yes, I'm afraid of dying alone too. Selma, yes, good one. Okay, so why am I asking these questions? Well, it's really the whole point is today we're going to be talking about verbs like frighten, but using them in a way that we're not actually using them as verbs necessarily. We're taking a verb and we're changing it slightly, and we're using it a little bit differently in the sentence, okay? And we're going to start off a little bit easy, some basic stuff, and then we'll get a little bit more complex as we go, okay? Some more people I see are afraid of snakes. Paul's getting I guess, really specific, saying he's afraid of the middle of the ocean. Me too. I'm a little scared of like the side of the ocean too. Closed spaces, maybe. Okay, this is good. Lots of fear. You guys are all full of fear. This is perfect. All right. So, the whole point is talking about things like a frightening experience, or in this case, in this picture, a frightened passenger. Now, I chose the word frightened because it's a verb, but in this case, in these two examples, a frightening experience and a frightened example, this word is not being used as a verb. In fact, they're being used as adjectives. Okay, so this is where we're going to start taking a verb, changing the form of it, and using it as an adjective. Okay, don't be afraid. Don't be frightened. I will walk you through it. Okay, let's do it together. Let's hold hands and walk into the ocean. So what we're talking about today is Well, that's surprising. That's not supposed to be there. That's fine. Participles, okay, or participles. Either pronunciation is fine if you want to put the stress on the first syllable or the second. I think I tend to say participles, okay? So this is what we're going to focus on today, all right? And of course, the question is, what is a participle? Well, that's an excellent question from little Timmy here. What is a participle? Let's get specific, okay? So I kind of explained it, but let's talk about it. A participle is a word formed from a verb. So you take a verb and you add an ending to it, or you change the form slightly to create a word that can function as an adjective. Okay, so in the case that we just saw, frightening and frightened, these are participles, okay, because they're used as adjectives in the sentence or in a sentence. Okay, so what we're going to look at today, there are more than two, but we're going to focus on two, which are called the present participle and the past participle. Okay, now the word participle itself, don't even really worry too much about the terminology. If you don't know the word, you've probably seen these before. You've definitely seen them used before. In fact, I think I just used one in the sentence I just said. Okay, we use them a lot, and you're familiar with them even if you don't know exactly the term participle. So we'll go over it together, starting with the present participle. So what is a present participle? It's really just a verb with an ing ending. If you take any verb, put an ing on it, and then use it as an adjective, then it counts as a participle. I mean, we also use the present participle in the present continuous tense as well. But a verb plus ing, you can call that a present participle. For example, an amazing view. In this case, amazing comes from the verb amaze, but in this case functions as an adjective. So the view is amazing. It's an amazing view. This is a present participle, okay? Another one, a burning house. Now in this case, again, the verb burn is used as an adjective. Don't worry, everybody's fine. Don't be afraid. No one was hurt here. So a burning house, and one more, an interesting book. So burning, interesting, fascinating, amazing. These are all functioning as adjectives, and that's why we call them the participles, okay? So that's the present participle. What is the past participle? Well, this one you guys probably know quite well, okay? This is just a verb ending in ed, or in some cases, it could be an irregular verb, okay? So if you ever, in class, if you're studying what we call the third form of the verb, or some of you refer to it as the PP, unfortunately maybe, but past participle means the third form. So if you say, for example, take, took, taken, taken is the past participle, okay? Or buy, bought, bought is a past participle. Now we use these all the time, and you guys use them all the time as well. Anytime you want to use the passive voice, you use past participles. Anytime you want to use perfect tenses, you use past participles. And today we're going to be looking at them not as verbs, as I said, but as adjectives and beyond. Okay, so let's talk about, first let's see some examples, of course. So a tired student. All right, so in this case, tired is an adjective. Oh no. A broken iPhone, tragedy, terrible. This is this is a fear right here. A broken iPhone, again, broken, a very common participle. All right, and of course here, a complicated problem. Complicated is a participle. It's an adjective describing problem, and especially complicated for me. Some of you who have been in previous classes know my limited math skills. So this is maybe this isn't a complicated problem. It looks complicated to me though. Okay, so those are past participles. But what's the difference in meaning? Now this is where sometimes students make mistakes. Sometimes students get confused about the ing ending and the ed ending when you are using them as adjectives, okay? But it's quite simple. Now, sometimes students talk about feelings, right? How amazed is a feeling, or disappointed is a feeling, or how people can only use the past participle or something like that. But it's way simpler than that, I would say. And it breaks down like this. Present participles, when you use the ing, they are active in meaning. Okay, so if you know your active voice and your passive voice, okay. Oh yeah, is somebody saying that my complicated problem on the board was not complicated? Yeah, see, I told you. Okay, it was a picture. Sorry. Okay. All right. So present participles are active in meaning. Past participles are passive in meaning, and that's the difference. With past participles, there may be a few exceptions, but typically they are passive. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Tennis. I like tennis. I enjoy tennis. Tennis excites me, usually. Okay, so this very simple sentence here, tennis excites me. Tennis is the subject, me is the object of the verb excite. Okay, now, usually when you're talking to your friends, I mean, I would not say this sentence. I wouldn't say, yes, tennis excites me. It's a little bit strange to say that. So rather than saying that, you take the verb excite and you change it so that it is an adjective. You use it as a participle. Okay. So we have a question coming in from Luciana. Limited is a participle used as an adjective to write. Yeah, right. Exactly, Luciana. Limited is a past participle used as an adjective. So if you say a limited time, right, or limited potential, in that case, limited is exactly right. That's a past participle. Good question. Okay, good. So back to tennis. All right. Tennis excites me. Let's look at the present participle. I would say this. This tennis match is exciting. All right. Again, we're keeping it relatively simple, and then we'll get a little bit more complicated in a few minutes. So the word exciting, in this case, I'm using the present participle because it's active, right? Remember, tennis is exciting me, so it's making me feel the excitement. So I use the ing ending there, okay? The alternative would be, I am excited to watch this tennis match. Now in this case, it's passive in meaning because I am receiving the excitement. Tennis is exciting me. So you're going to use the past participle, okay? Now I know that some of you aren't as, we'll say, passionate about tennis as I am maybe. I don't know how you guys feel about tennis. So let's look at two other examples, or one other example about tennis. Tennis bores me, right? Now this is a really good example of a type of a verb that's actually more often used as an adjective, as a participle, than as a verb itself. The verb to bore, or to make someone bored, right? We don't use it as a verb very often. We usually use it as an adjective, participle, like so. This tennis match is boring, which actually I think is probably true. If you look at there's nobody there. I don't know where this match is being played, but there's like three people at the very top. I don't know. But this tennis match does look a little bit boring. Again, it's active, so we're using ing, okay? Or, I am too bored to watch this tennis match. I'm going to do something else. So again, that's the difference between active and passive. So just be careful of that. If you mean to say to someone, for example, that if you have a friend and you think they are bored, meaning they're not having fun, and you say, I think you're boring, they might not like that very much. They might be offended and say, why? Why do you think I'm boring? What did I do to you, right? So understanding the difference of those two things is quite important for the meaning of the two adjectives, okay? So hopefully you guys aren't bored yet, all right? Because we've got more to talk about. Let's look at this. Actually, yeah, you know what? To keep you guys from being bored, I'm going to get you guys to do some work right away, all right? I'm going to see how comfortable you guys are with the participles before we get a little bit more complex. Okay, so on the screen here I've said give 2 example sentences for each word, 1 present and 1 past participle. So let me put up 4 verbs: confuse, fascinate, frustrate, satisfy. All 4 of these verbs are very commonly used as the participles confusing, confused, fascinating, fascinated, frustrating, frustrated, satisfying, satisfied. So just so we're clear on the difference between the active and the passive meaning, how about you guys take a couple minutes and put some example sentences into the chat. Take the word confuse, give me 1 sentence with confusing and 1 sentence with confused, and then we'll put it up, we'll talk about it, okay? And then we'll get a little bit more complicated and maybe a little bit more confusing, perhaps, all right? So get to work here. I'm gonna pop off the screen. I'm gonna put the happy music that you guys love so much, all right? And put in some example sentences, and then we'll talk about it as one big happy internet family, okay? Get to work. I'm gonna pop off. All right, everybody, good stuff. Lots of good answers coming in on the chat. So how about this? Let me actually go out of here. Let me open up something else, and I'll put some answers up here on the screen for everybody to see. I'll put your answers up here. Full screen, actually. What font am I? Hey, that's good. Okay, so the first one was what? Confuse? Now, some of you said you were confused by the exercise, which is a really good example, which makes me think I don't believe you that you were confused by the example, or by the exercise, rather. Okay, so this one coming in from Laura, I think. Thanks for that. This exercise made me confused. So that's good. That's that passive, the passive past participle as the adjective. Perfect. We've got one coming in from Rosa. Where is Rosa's here? All right. I'll put Rosa's up for the present participle. My teacher handout is confusing. This is really good, Rosa. I will say for a couple things here, just make sure you got the capital at the beginning. And the only thing missing here, I would say, is a apostrophe S there. Okay, so my teacher's handout is confusing. All right, this is good. Perfect. What else about, somebody said they were confused about, somebody's confused about politics. Me too, I guess, yeah? That's coming from Valerie. Yeah, I'm confused about politics and religion. Yeah, that's a good sentence. Good. What was the next one? The next one was maybe, was fascinating. All right, let's say this one. I'm going to put one up here by Luciana. I'm fascinated by Smrt English. Yeah, good example. Yeah, good. What else do we have here? For ing, for the present. Somebody here is, I'm fascinated. How about this one? This is another one with the past participle. I'm fascinated that girl. And that's good. Just make sure you get the by in there. Okay, so you are fascinated by something. Good. And for fascinating, again, I think this one's coming in from Luciana as well. But it makes me satisfied. It's satisfying, so I'm going to put it up there. This class is fascinating. Well, good. I'm glad you think so. I hope you think the class is satisfying as well as fascinating and not too frustrating or confusing. All right, what about that? What about satisfy? Where's satisfy? Or maybe I skipped frustrated? Yeah, let's do frustrated first. This one's a good example of the present participle. Coming in from Kyle, maybe? My brother faced a frustrating situation minutes later. Wow, it sounds like a interesting story. That's good. Thank you for that. And how about this one? This one coming in. Again, this one's from Valerie. I feel frustrated about my job. Well, that's unfortunate. A good example, but I hope you're not too frustrated with your job, or I hope that's just an example sentence. All right, what about satisfy? One coming in from Paul. Yeah, good one. This music is very satisfying. I hope you're talking about my my happy work music. Yeah. I find it very satisfying too to listen to that music. Very, very good. And how about Marianne? I can't forget that one. There, this is a good example. My teacher was not satisfied of my last essay. My essay was not satisfying. Now, sorry to laugh about your essay. I'm sure it was fine, but that was good. The one thing I would change there, Marianne, is the preposition. I know that prepositions are kind of tough, but when you use the word satisfy, I think it would be more common to say with. My teacher was not satisfied with my last essay. Good. That's really good. Okay, guys. So it seems like you have a pretty good handle on the past and the present participle and the difference between passive and active use. And that was a good kind of an introduction, because I want to get a little bit more advanced, a little bit more complicated with it. Okay. So I'm going to go back into my presentation here, and we're going to take things up a notch. All right. Let me go down to where we left off. And we're going to kind of continue on something that we were doing last week. It's a continuation of last week, getting a little bit more complicated, perhaps, than last week. And this is talking about going beyond just using participles as adjectives. This is looking at something called reduced adjective clauses. All right? Also sometimes called participle clauses, sometimes called adjective phrases, sometimes called participle phrases as well. There's lots of different words for it. But really what we're looking at is a way that native English speakers reduce the amount of words in a sentence to sound a little bit more natural. Okay, so what am I talking about here? With present participles, for example, if you look at this sentence we saw last week. The girl who is wearing red lives on my street. All right. Now, last week we were talking about defining and non-defining clauses. All right. Oh no. Selma is frustrated because Shaun didn't pick any of her answers. Sorry, Selma. I know that's not very satisfying. If Shaun misses those, yeah, I'll try to satisfy that need a little bit later. Okay. Okay, so the girl who's wearing red lives on my street. Last week we said that this who is wearing red is what we call a defining adjective clause, right? We're using that information to define which girl we're talking about. Now the thing that we kind of don't really tell students early on in kind of the lower levels, and teachers usually kind of tell them later on, is that I think English students use the words like who is and which is and that is more than a native English speaker, because oftentimes me or any other native speaker will reduce that clause down and maybe save ourselves some time and sound a little bit more natural. So what I'm talking about here is, in this clause, the words who and is, those two words together, you can remove those. They're unnecessary. They're fine the way they are, but it's also perfectly fine to take those out of the sentence and just leave this like so. The girl wearing red lives on my street. Now what we've done here, now I'm using the present participle to make a participle clause or a reduced adjective clause, still to identify which girl I'm talking about. But we do this a lot in English, in speech and in writing. We get rid of that who or the which or the that, and we kind of condense things down a little bit. And it's a really good way of making some of your speech or your writing seem a little bit more natural. And I mean, in this class, I'm always telling you guys to show your range, right? To show the different ways of saying things. So this is just one way of saying the same thing. So let me show you another example. Again, this example we looked at last week. The man who sat next to me was very friendly. In this case, just like we talked about last week, who sat next to me is an adjective clause. It's a defining adjective clause. And in this case, again, we don't have to say the who. We don't need that who there. If we want to, we can remove the who. Okay. Okay, question coming in from Rosa. Reduce in writing only or even through even in speaking? Yeah, good question, Rosa. I would say we do this all the time in both speech and in writing. Okay, so for example, let's look at this sentence, Rosa. That's a good question. So, the man who sat next to me was very friendly. This sentence is fine, but a slightly more natural way to say it, I think, would be to take who out of there, and rather than that past tense verb, you change it to the present participle, because it's active. The man sat. This is an active voice, okay? So this becomes, the man sitting next to me was very friendly. Now again, you're using that present participle to create a reduced adjective clause. And this is very common in speech and in writing, right? If you're talking about a flight or a class, right? Did you see the guy sitting next to me on the bus, for example? We do it all the time. I saw a man riding a horse, not I saw a man who was riding a horse. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, Rosa. This is good. Okay, so how is that different? Oh, actually, but one thing you have to be careful of with the reduced adjective clauses is that you want to avoid making a mistake. Okay, so let's look at one more example. Students who want to take the new business class can register online. Okay, in this case, again, you've got that adjective clause there. All right, and let's reduce it. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So you take who out. Now it works like this. In this sentence, this clause, who want to take, is modifying the word student, okay? And if you look closely, you'll notice that who and student are the same thing. And in this clause, who is the subject of that clause, okay? So the subject of the clause has to be the same for you to be able to reduce it, okay? Who want to take the new business class? Well, students do. All right, so you can take who away, change want to wanting, and it becomes students wanting to take the new business class can register online. All right, but you can't do this if in the sentence the subjects are different. Okay, now look at this sentence. I love the shoes that you are wearing. In this clause, that you are wearing, you is the subject, not that. Okay, so it's describing shoes, but the subject of that clause is different, all right? The subject is not the same, shoes and you. So you cannot say, I love the shoes wearing, right? It doesn't work. So the subjects have to be the same, or you cannot reduce the clause itself, okay? So let me get through that. Let's look at the past participle, okay? Past participles are a little bit easy because it's really just removing words. You don't have to really change anything other than just taking two words out. The coffee which is made in Brazil is stronger than the coffee here. So again, in this case, you've got that adjective clause, and you take the words which and is, you can take those out, and it just shortens down to the coffee made in Brazil is stronger than the coffee here. No, I don't think I'm talking about the coffee in Canada. I don't know. We don't really, well, depends on what I mean by make, I guess. We definitely don't grow coffee here. I guess we make coffee here, cups of it anyway. But in this case, made in Brazil is a reduced adjective clause. Okay, so Paul said, I love the shoes you are wearing. And that's good, Paul. That's an example of taking the word that away, because honestly, the word that you can kind of remove from a lot of sentences. If I say, I think that you are nice, I think you are nice. The word that is not always as necessary as sometimes we think it is. So good call on that, Paul. Good. Okay, let's look at one more example of the reduced adjective clause with the past participle. Batman versus Superman. All right, look how sad Batman is in this poster. I guess I would be sad too if I had to fight Superman, I guess. But in this case, Here's the sentence. Batman versus Superman is a film that was directed by Zack Snyder. All right, so again, here, you've got that was directed by Zack Snyder. There's your adjective clause, and all you have to do is take that and was away, shorten it down, and it becomes Batman versus Superman is a film directed by Zack Snyder. Okay? And let's get fancy. Let's add more to this sentence. Okay? I could say something like this. Batman versus Superman is a film starring Ben Affleck and directed by Zack Snyder. So again, I'm using two participle clauses, one present participle, one past participle, to add information to this sentence. And again, we can go even further and modify film and say, Batman versus Superman is a disappointing film starring Ben Affleck and directed by Zack Snyder. All right? Good. You know what? Honestly, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if it's disappointing. It's getting bad reviews, though. Okay, so if I'm wrong, if it's not disappointing, if it's a fascinating, exciting movie that I should see, yeah, let me know. We have another question coming in. All right, Valerie has a question. It says, could be, I love the shoes which you are wearing. Yes, yeah, and that's a good question too, Valerie. And oftentimes, in the defining relative clauses, you can take the word that or which, and you can interchange them. Yeah. So in that past sentence, you could definitely say, the shoes which you are wearing. Again, I think, honestly, Paul's sentence of just taking that away, if you're using it in conversation and just saying, I love the shoes you are wearing, I think is the most natural use of that adjective clause. Okay, good question. All right, so Batman versus Superman, forget about that. Let me get that out of here. And kind of just to show you, to try to give you an example of how often we use the participle clauses. When I was putting this lesson together, at the very end, when I was going through it all, I noticed that at the very beginning of the lesson, I put this sentence up there and I said, a participle is a word formed from a verb. Now, maybe you noticed, I'm not sure, but in this sentence, I'm using a participle clause, right? A reduced adjective clause. Formed from a verb means which is formed. So a participle is a word which is or that is formed from a verb. But naturally, I chose to do that. Not because the other one is wrong, but just because it feels a little bit more natural to do it that way. Okay, so these participle clauses are everywhere, these reduced clauses. And I would like you guys, I think right now, to get your hands dirty, to get in there and do some work for me, okay? So I will ask friendly moderator Lane to share the link to today's exercise. I'm going to open it up on my screen so you guys can see it. And you guys are going to get creative for me now. And if you just want to look at the screen, that's perfectly fine too. I'm going to make it bigger here so everybody can see. Okay. And I've got about 7 sentences here, but maybe I'll do the first one for you and then let you guys get creative. So I've written real short, simple sentences. And what I would like you guys to do is try to add a defining adjective clause using a participle. Okay, it can be present or past. It's entirely up to you. You kind of have to decide based on the sentence. Okay, now A says the man is a little creepy. All right, so you can do whatever you want, but I want you to modify or define whatever word is in orange. Okay, so for example, let me go down here, and I would say the man, keep it real simple, sitting in the corner is a little creepy. Yeah? The man sitting in the corner is a little creepy. But you can say whatever you want here. You can say the man teaching my class right now is a little creepy. Hopefully not, but you could say that if you wanted to. what I'd like you guys to do is use your creativity, show me your range, show me what you can do, and write participle clauses or reduced adjective clauses in each of these sentences. Put them in the chat, and then we'll put them up here and we'll talk about them. Okay? So get to work. I'm going to scroll up. Actually, no, this is good. All of them are on the page. This is perfect. I'm going to pop out here. And you guys can get to work if you have questions. Yeah, just pop them in the... One question is from Valerie saying, what's creepy? Yeah, creepy is kind of a little bit scary. Not super scary, but maybe just enough to make the little hairs on your neck stand up or give you little goosebumps or something, Valerie. It's like, maybe you think spiders are creepy. For example, you see a spider and you think, ugh, I don't like that. That's what creepy is. So hopefully you don't find me creepy. Let's take that one out and say the man sitting across the room is a little creepy. All right, hopefully that answers your question. If you guys have more questions, put them in the chat. I'm going to pop out of here so you guys don't have to listen to me all day, okay? So get to work. All right, lots of stuff coming in. Good job, everybody. Thanks for giving me your answers. Wow, yeah, lots of stuff here to look through. Let's look at B. Now remember, what we were looking for is using the ing of the present participle or the ed past form of the verbs to create adjective clauses. Okay, so the painting was never found. I would say, now what do we have here? Of course, I have to find Selma's, right? And I think a lot of people had the same answer as Selma here for B. This is a good one. You guys said the painting stolen from the Louvre. Oh yeah, you got fancy there. The Louvre Museum was never found. So you're using that past participle of steal for stolen, meaning the painting which was stolen. Really good. I'm just going to switch your R and E there, okay? And that's really good. I think a lot of people said the painting, Luciana, you said the same thing or very similar. The painting stolen from the museum was never found. That's good. Okay, now I noticed some people said things like with beautiful colors or the scary painting and that kind of stuff. This is really good detail, but just keep in mind that it's not using the participles that we're focusing on today, okay? But that's good detail. This is good. Okay, so what about C? The food was quite delicious. Well, let's get more specific. What kind of food? Okay, so here's something from Douglas. Let me put Douglas's answer up here. Thanks for the answer, Douglas. The food cooked by my wife was delicious. All right, lucky you, right? So this is perfect. This adjective clause is reduced. The food which was cooked by my wife was delicious. I'm just going to put a period at the end there. That's great. Selma said the food cooked in the hotel. Good. Valerie, the food cooked by my mother. So I'm just going to take Douglas's wife out of there, put Valerie's mother in there, and it's the same. It's great. The food cooked by my mother was quite delicious. These are all really good participles here. Okay. What about D? D. Aha. This is a good one. Coming in from Luciana. It says students need to improve their reading comprehension. Well, what kind of students is the question? Let's get more specific. And it becomes students applying for IELTS need to improve their reading comprehension. That's really good. And I agree. In this case, you've got a present participle. You've got that active idea of the students are applying. And that's an excellent reduced adjective clause. Thank you for that. And again, I see some other good stuff here, like students from elementary school or something like that. These are good phrases. Or Yara, you said students from foreign countries. Yeah, how about, okay, Yara, let me take yours up here. I'm going to put it up here. This is good. So students from foreign countries need to improve their reading comprehension. How about instead of from foreign countries, put some kind of participle there. How about students coming from foreign countries need to improve their reading comprehension. So if you think about maybe this is something that a Canadian university might say, right? Students coming from other countries need to improve their reading comprehension. And now you've got a beautiful participle clause there, reduced adjective clause. This is good. Okay, let's look at a couple more. I work in an office. Somebody says their office is like a fishbowl. Yeah, it's too bad. What do we have here? Okay, this is some good stuff here. I think a bunch of people said something similar to this one. I'm going to put this up here. And again, guys, if you have questions as I'm putting this up here, put your questions in the chat, and I'll try to answer them if you're confused, right? let me know. So I work in an office located in Brazil. This is really good. You could say anything. Located. Located is the word that I would have thought of as well, I think. An office located downtown or located wherever. Okay, this is really good. Again, meaning which is located. Good. And how about, what do we have for F? Any other new names there? Okay, how about, now this one, I'm going to put Miguel, I'm going to put yours up here. Okay, the band you talked to me about is one of the most influential of its generation. Now, this is definitely an adjective clause, and it's really good. Obviously, you've removed the word that, right? The band which, or the band that you talked to me about. It's really good. But let's try to come up with one that has that participle in it, like ing or a past form. So how about maybe I'll do one here. I would say the band performing tonight. The band performing tonight is one of the most influential of its generation. Okay, I don't know who that would be. I don't know who that would be of a band performing tonight. But performing tonight, there's your participle clause saying the band which is performing tonight. Good stuff. And how about one more, because there's one other thing I want to do with you guys before our time is up. All right. I see Paul said something like playing, right? Like a band playing tonight is good. G. Okay. This one's coming in from Aaron here. It is people insulting president were interviewed by the police. That's good. I would just put the article in there, right? People insulting the president were interviewed by police. Good. And, oh, this is a good one too. Who did this one? All right, I'm not sure where this one came from, but I'm going to put it up here. Whoever put this one in, thank you very much. There we go. So people seen near the crime scene were interviewed by police. You've got that past participle there for seen. Really good. Excellent. You guys are pros. All right. So this is good. How about one more thing before you guys run away? We're not done yet because, of course, we can't go away without looking at a mistake. All right? So let me go all the way down here in my presentation. And we might go a couple minutes past 4, but that's okay. I'm going to go all the way down here. And I'm going to see if I can confuse you a little bit. Because, of course, it's time, once again, for the mistake of the week. All right, the mistake of the week. Let's put it up here. I'm just going to put it up here real quick. And I'm going to see if you guys can come up with it. All right, so the question is, can you spot the mistake? I'm going to put a sentence up here, and I want to see who can find me the mistake the fastest. Who's the fastest proofreader on the internet? Okay, this one's kind of a long sentence, and let's see what you can do. It's not directly related to what we're talking about today, but there is a connection there. Okay, but I'll give you, that's the only hint I'm going to give you. Here's the sentence, all right? Take a quick 10 to 20 seconds, read that sentence, and find me the mistake. I'm going to put the happy music back on, all right? And I'll be back in about 20 seconds. Go for it. All right, this is good. All right, so you guys were real quick. A lot of people seem to think that it should be one of the most surprising ideas suggested. And if you changed more to most, that would be okay to do that. But honestly, we do say from time to time in common usage one of the more surprising ideas. So that's actually not the mistake. I think Paul may have been the first to find it. I see a lot of people came after, though. Miguel has it. Yeah, Marianne has it. What do we got? Yara, good. So a lot of people came up with it. Now, yeah, obviously the mistake in this case is kind of a review of what we did a couple weeks ago, which is subject-verb agreement, right? Now, in this case, were should be was. Now, the reason that I threw this your way is that this is quite a long sentence, and sometimes when you're dealing with a long sentence with lots of different components to the sentence, it's easy to miss what the subject is and what the verb is. Okay, so let's really quickly break this down. The subject of this sentence is one. So one is singular. Were is obviously not singular, right? That's kind of the plural form of the verb, like like saying you were, right, or they were. But for the singular, yeah, that's right. The singular, you say was, and you guys found that. So the confusing part, maybe for some of you, or for some people, is that you've got a phrase here, right, of the more surprising ideas, but that's not the subject. The subject is still one. Now, what I put in there intentionally is this whole thing here, suggested as a way to encourage more people to take public transportation. In this case, I wanted to see if I could trick anybody with the word suggested, if you would have thought that that was the main verb, which of course is not the main verb. It is a reduced adjective clause with a past participle, right? Meaning, in this case, one of the more surprising ideas, which was suggested as a way to encourage more people to take public transportation, right, was to increase the price of gas. So you got to change that word to was. And when you're reading long sentences, keep an eye out for these participles and for these reduced adjective clauses, because sometimes they can trick students, and students may think that they're looking at a verb, either a present continuous verb or a past tense verb, when they're actually looking at an adjective clause, okay? So, yeah, that's right. Some people are asking me about the more surprising. Yeah, I think that's in common usage to say more surprising is fine. But again, if you said most, that's okay too. But I hope you guys are satisfied with today's lesson, because unfortunately, it's time for us to say goodbye. It's time for us to all to go home or go to bed or do whatever else you do after class, okay? So thanks for coming. I am going to stick around in the chat. Here, I'm going to get rid of that there. I'm going to stick around in the chat for a couple more minutes after class. If anybody has questions about anything in class, or if anybody did some of the homework sentences from last week, if you want to put them in the chat, I'll check it out and give you some feedback for the next 5 minutes or so. And if not, then thanks for watching, thanks for coming, and we'll see you here, I believe, same time next week. Okay, and again, if any of that changes, then we'll let you know. But thanks for coming. Keep practicing your English. Keep using these participles. Use them, make mistakes, and learn from them. And we'll see you next time. Okay, guys? And of course, check us out on the Facebook page, Learn English on Facebook. Keep watching Mark's class. Check out the other videos on YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody. And we'll see you here. We'll see you here next time. Okay? Bye-bye.